Hello, hello, hello. It is Sunday. I'm CJ. This is Miles, who is launching an attack right now. Stop. 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 Piggy, who's this? Who's this? Who is it? Who is it? Okay. Hello, friends. Hello. Okay. This is... just... Oh my god. Welcome to West London and the home of all of the madness. This is your Sunday video, and things are weird today, huh? Yeah, we're pretty odd. The theme this week, we're talking about... Piggy, what are we talking about? We're talking about how your relationship that you have with your body, which, you know, is a super fun topic for those of us who have no relationship with our bodies, really. And I guess that is the thing, and that's like my unifying thing that I have when it comes to talking about dysphoria. I'm going to use the word because we have a word for it, and my issues that I have with the way that we probably talk about dysphoria is probably encapsulated in this way in which this is so much more light-hearted than I had anticipated this being, because I have a French bulldog eating my neck. Why? I reached like 29 before I worked out that like the relationship that other people have with their bodies isn't the same as the relationship that I have with mine. And that was a real surprise to me. Not because I assumed that I was normal, but because I just kind of assumed that, like, you know, I exist in and of the world. And so I think I just sort of assumed that the world was going to have some things in common, and that I was going to have some things in common with like whatever was going down in it. And it turns out that I really didn't. My relationship with my body has always been a little bit like I am an unwilling stowaway in a ship that I did not choose, and I feel like I'm stuck here. That feeling for me is discomfort, I suppose. And that's really what I think of my dysphoria as. I think of it as like a kind of lack of comfort that I quickly disassociate from. I think disassociation is like my top trick for dealing with anything. And so at the point where I could have been functional, and I could have been working through my issues, and I could have been confronting this reality of this situation that I found myself in, I really decided that the best thing to do was just to sort of disappear into my own mind, disconnect 1000% from my relationship with myself, and that was going to be the relationship that I had with my body for the rest of my life. Because there was no way to change that. There was no way to challenge that. There was no way to process what was happening except just to say that, like, well, this is how it is because that's how it's always been, and that's how it goes. It's only been recently that I've kind of challenged this relationship that I've had, which has been weird and difficult and painful, I think, in a lot of ways, because there has been no emotion attached to it before. Anybody who knows anything about disassociating knows how easy it can be to just switch, and you're in a different space, you're in a different place, you're doing a different thing, you're not, to quote Radiohead, like, I'm not here and this isn't happening. And that was really the sort of relationship that I had with, like, me, you know? I'm not here, this isn't happening, this thing that I'm going through isn't something I'm going through, and I don't care about it. And maybe I'm getting better with it. I think it's really slow steps, like I think it's really slow stages. My relationship with my body is a process of renegotiation that I'm working on. And I think that's okay. Like, I think you're allowed to hit a point where I'm here to tell you that, like, if you haven't got your shit worked out at 30, like, that's still fine. It doesn't mean that you've failed at anything. I have a great life. I have a lot of really amazing things that go on in my world, and I still don't have all of the pieces of the jigsaw puzzles all together. And that's okay, like, that happens. And I don't know that I want it all together, because I don't know what I'd do if suddenly everything was, like, ideal. I don't know what ideal looks like, actually. I think that's probably... I genuinely have no idea what ideal in this version of events actually resembles. But yeah, so my dysphoria, to use the big word, and I know it's a very laden word, and I know it's a word that a lot of people have fights and that kind of thing over, but my dysphoria is discomfort. It isn't agony. And it's discomfort because I can disassociate, and because I do disassociate. And so for me, it's that space of sometimes it's eased by things and other times it's aggravated by things. And a lot of the time, I don't have any say as to what that thing is going to be. Because I'm pretty good at like keeping things on like locked down. Sometimes things can surprise me. So, you know, like I can have nights where if I'm not like never nuded up, like if I'm not literally like fully dressed almost, then I can't sleep because my contact with my body is too present. And that's a really shitty way to have to live your life sometimes. It is. It is a really, really shitty way to have to live your life when you're like super concerned that lying in bed that you may be confronted with a body part that you don't necessarily want to deal with. And if anybody else has that, then I, you know, but I don't think of it as agony because I've experienced agony. I know what that feels like, and this doesn't feel like that. And so that's the only way that I can compare any of my experiences. There is this thing and there is this other thing, and they are not alike, so they must be different. And it makes it tricky because it's hard to know kind of how to challenge it. Definitely, and this is my number one advice for everything all the time, whenever anybody asks anything, is that like we have got to learn to give ourselves a break. There has been some situation where the body that we ordered at birth was out of stock and we don't have it, and we're getting there, and it's not our fault. It's not our fault that this is how things are. And I typically feel like trans people we're given this story of like blame and penance and the suggestion of trickery with doing what we're doing. And it's bullshit. All of it's bullshit. Like, such bullshit. And it's hard. It's particularly hard, like, on a day when a cisgendered male has been an asshole. Because I do have those days, I don't know if anyone else has these days, but I do have those days where I'm like, I have to basically get a license to drive the body that you have, and you're just fucking it all away. And I get a kind of feeling of wrath for, like, half a second. Or slightly longer. But yeah, you know, like I guess renegotiation is the relationship I have with my body, and I'm working on it. And some of it is just working on forgiving myself for being born, which is so melodramatic, but also so bizarrely accurate. There's nothing else to do but just kind of keep on keeping on. But it's hard. I feel like all of the time, like my main conclusion to everything is like, P.S. it's really fucking difficult. And you know what? Like being alive in this world is difficult. And doing the stuff that you've got to do just to get by is really difficult. You know, some people have a lot more difficulties than other people doing it. But it's a double whammy, really, of like forgiving yourself for going through whatever you're going through, and then like forgiving other people for going through worse or for not going through something that's as bad. You know, if we can understand that the world is like difficult for everybody who's a part of it, then maybe we can just be a little bit fucking nicer to each other. You know, some people have an easier time, some people have a hard time. Everybody has some difficulties in some way. And if we can just like cop onto that fact and stop comparing so that we feel better because our agony is like somehow worse or better off than somebody else's, that would be like fucking great. Because I don't have time for it and I don't have patience, and we've got to stop shitting on each other. We do. We've got to stop having these competitions of like, I'm more or I'm less or I'm whatever than you are, because it's bullshit. It doesn't get you anywhere. It just ends up being like, congratulations, like, so you're the person who's suffered most in the world. That doesn't invalidate anybody else's. And you're allowed to have days where you're like, you know what, like today is a day I don't feel terrible. And like, thank fuck for that. Thank fuck for those days where suddenly things aren't like the worst that they've ever been. Because there's going to be plenty of days where things are worse. So at least if you can get some good days, then I'm here for you for those. Like, I'm not just here for the bad times, guys. I'm not just into this to hear your woes and feel like better or useless, as those are my two combinations. You know, I'm here for your good days, and you are allowed to have good days, and you're allowed to have days where you don't feel dysphoric, and you're allowed to have days where you feel super fucking cute doing whatever the hell it is that you do. And, you know, like, I'm getting there. I'm having those days where I'm like, shit, today's a good hair day. And if that's the place that you can do it, if that's the space that you can inhabit and feel better, then, like, right the fuck on. So I don't really know what I'm saying. I feel like editing this is going to be a hell of a lot of fun, but that's me, that's this week, that's Pig, I'm CJ, it's Sunday, and I'll talk to you next week.